So I'm trying to find a position to hold the iPhone so I can, let's see, is this solid? So I keep aiming in the right direction. So I can just fill in this little Spider-Man while I talk to you guys. So I'm setting up my little portable studio. I've got my little microwave, my Whirlpool microwave artist stand. And I've got my donkey pen, not to be confused with Donkey Jaw, which is Marshal's channel, which you should definitely check out. He's doing very well lately. He's producing videos regularly. They always have very cool topics. He always manages to pull people in from his community, which is growing fast. And he's got his own Discord up and running. And it's a lot of fun hearing everyone's opinions every other day with the little prompts he gives. So I would definitely recommend joining his community. I'll put a link down below. So in the meantime, I am testing out these new pens I bought here in Manila. These were about 70 Filipino pesos. I got my newsprint paper, and I did have the thought of, what if this turns out really cool and I might want to sell it? And then it's this flimsy newsprint and no one will buy it, but let's not worry too much about that right now. Okay, so let's get going on this Spider-Man here. So there's a lot of momentum lately for a lot of people, myself included, in getting their comic book out the door. So I myself have got my own comic book story. It's called Phosphor. It's a science fiction adventure, and I've been working on it for a number of years, and I'm very happy with how it is coming together. It is right now, I guess I'm in the stage of just putting the finishing touches on issue 1 after working on the story for an awful long time. And I can tell you, it's a really great feeling just seeing the story come together as it is, but also I had left open a lot of character development moments, and it's really cool just having this late, like, you know, like with like 24 pages pretty much done, but this late in the game for issue 1 still coming up and having the space to maneuver to go like, wait a minute, this, I really need a character piece here to let this character have his little say. I really need to have him have that moment that I have in my mind, but never really pinpointed for issue 1, and always figured it would be somewhere a little further down the line. And so I'm having a lot of fun having these little aha moments now that it's all coming together. And it's really cool being part of a community like the 100 Days of Making Comics, which was set up by Kevin Cross many a year ago. Kevin's busy working on his monkey mod, and in the meantime the community is very self-sufficient and has a steady influx of new folks. So again, if you like the sound of what I'm talking about and you got your own comic book idea, but you're not quite sure how to get started, there's communities out there, and ours is one of them. And ours is one where Kevin laid down the groundworks of working on your comic book for at least half an hour a day, every single day, no matter what, 100 consecutive days, and keeping yourself accountable by posting progress every single day on your favorite social media. It could be Instagram. A lot of people are on Instagram these days, especially now there's video options. Or like myself here on the YouTube. So if you go through my playlist, you'll find a lot of 100 days videos. I've done it a number of times now. And it can really help you get your ideas together. But more importantly, I found over the years, which is why I am recommending you check out Marshal's channel and the 100 Days of Making Comics, is that it's just incredibly helpful to realize that you are not alone and that a lot of the problems you think you're facing aren't uniquely yours per se. You might be surprised to realize that a lot of people have been going through the same problems. And maybe your problems have a unique flavor to them, which is yours, based on your situation. But yeah, you might be surprised to see how many of us are struggling with procrastination, are struggling with finding the right tools, are struggling with realizing halfway through that you've wasted way too much time on a particular part of the process, and that as much fun as you had, it was really unnecessary, and that is always difficult to admit. So yeah, and yeah, it's just and also, let's be honest, us artists, we're very needy people. We need a lot of encouragement, and the 100 Days of Making Comics and Marshal's YouTube channel and the community around it are very positive, very constructive, uplifting bunch of people. Exactly what the internet is great for, bringing together from all around the world. And we are literally all around the world. I myself am now based in Manila, here in the Philippines. Before I was in Barcelona, and before that I can tell you lots of stories of working on my comic book in the tiniest of bedrooms in London for the same price, of course, as the entire apartment that I lived in Spain. But that's the price you pay for living in a metropolitan area, the largest in Europe. Now, I'm rambling a little bit because I have to concentrate on this webbing. Hope this is going to come out. One of the things I've noticed is that having been drawing for quite some time, one, I tend to get carried away in a lot of detail, and one of the ways I found my art becomes a lot clearer is to first do a very clear outline and to do very thick outlines, which is something like the whole line weight thing is something I got, but how to apply it to my own figure drawing is something that's really been just coming together. I tend to now add very dark, clear outlines for things that are in the foreground. I leave the background lighter, and it just kind of makes sense of the this whole jumble of detail I've got here. And another thing I got going nowadays that I'm paying a lot more attention to is just light and shadow and how it can help sell. So I started adding little details here and there, and then only afterwards I realized, like, oh, so that means there's light bouncing off the building that Spider-Man is attached to. Could be glass and the light is shining through. So I now know that I shouldn't do the webbing on some parts of his body, so that the light can, even in black and white, it's very clear where the light source is going to be, and where there's going to be shadow, or that should be like that. And the last thing that really hit home that I want to share with you, that I'm really happy with, just how, just understanding it, is, oh, 1 second, little spider on his chest. Perspective. I love drawing people. I love drawing pinups, but all of a sudden it dawned on me as I was taking the next step with pinups. Well, not pinups. The next step with getting my art together is drawing people in scenes, and I go through that exercise once in a while. But because of the comic book, because the scenes are not whatever I make up behind the character, like the scene is a place that continues from one panel to the next, I found myself forced a lot more to deal with the perspective at hand, rather than draw a figure and make the perspective contort around the figure to make the drawing work. Now it was the other way around, and it made me realize that characters are always in perspective as well, and I never had given it much thought. So here, there's a building here, and I want like a really sharp, I want you to be able to see the street down here, if I manage to fill that in. But I actually drew some perspective lines, and drawing those perspective lines and using the circles for the joints, I now know that I need to keep in mind always, even if it's just a pinup, that there's a perspective the character has to conform to. And one very quick way of explaining this is that, okay, so I like drawing faces, right? So let's say you draw a quick shape. So this is frontal. Usually I'd worry more about who it is and what it looks like. But now I'm like, okay, well, there's, there's a perspective going through here. So so before I would draw, okay, so get the guidelines in, all that fun stuff. But now I'm much more like, because I drew this perspective, is the perspective now going to be like here, and then his feet are going to touch the bottom line, like say here, or is it going to be like this? And so you can imagine, so you would see, like if this is an incredibly muscular person, you see the underside here of the pecs, because this is a proper He-Man figure. But these circles you can draw through the body to help remind you that you need to draw all this volume. You can really see how these lines would really affect these circles, and so it makes, in the end, it just makes for a character that fits in the background, that really feels like it's he or she is actually standing there doing whatever and fits in and isn't tacked on. Because now I can see in my older art that a lot of times when I did draw a background, the character was just kind of floating, if that makes sense, just kind of floating over there. All right, time to concentrate because there's a lot of webbing that needs to be done. Okay, let's do the hands. I think this knuckle needs to be over here a little bit more. I noticed a couple of Spider-Man drawings from one of my favorite artists, Arthur Adams, and I noticed he really keeps the detail to a minimum on his Spider-Man. And then it had me thinking, because one of my favorite Spider-Man artists is Eric Larson, who kind of did the same, but then someone like Todd McFarlane somehow always found a way of cramming all his figures with so much detail, and yet it still worked. And now I realize that a lot of that has to do with line weight. So for a lot of the detail, he'd use a particularly fine pen, and so it wouldn't conflict in your mind with all the other ones. Now, I only have two, the 0.2 and the 0.1, so I guess we'll just have to make do with what we got here. All right. Let's see. So the hand is standing up. Something like that. So why Spider-Man, besides being a huge fan as a kid? I got to see the Into the Spider-Verse movie again just the other day on Netflix, and it's just so incredibly good. It is just so good. I can't believe how good that movie is. And it kind of had me thinking, like, because the directors of Into the Spider-Verse are the two guys who got fired off the Han Solo movie. And the Han Solo movie, the standalone one, is one that's really grown on me. I enjoyed it in the cinema. I thought it was pretty decent. It was fun. But the more I see it, the more I watch it, the better that movie gets for me. And now I just love it. I just think it's a really awesome Star Wars adventure movie of the kind they just don't make anymore. That being said, those guys were making that film, they got fired, and they got fired apparently because word got out they were making something very different than Disney wanted them to make, which is, of course, you get hired to do a job, all that. However, it also, seeing Into the Spider-Verse, and what a genius film that is, just how the music comes together with all the animation, everything. It does make you wonder, like, oh my god, like if these guys had gotten to finish that film, just how incredible could it have been? But hey. So I'm gonna crunch the webbing here at the joints. And this I'm going to leave open because of the light source. There we go. Same here. Leave a little bit of light source. Okay. Oh, my hand is cramping. So what else is happening art-wise? So a lot of my time lately has actually been going to digital art. I don't have my Mac, it's a long story, but I do have access to a computer, so I've just been setting it up with GIMP. I've been learning how to use GIMP. It's a very frustrating process, mostly because this is now giving, the webbing is giving us a shape I'm not sure I'm pleased with. Mostly because, you know, it just made me realize just how comfortable I am using Photoshop, and just the tiniest of things, like you make it, like let's say I wanted to move this foot, I'd make a selection. First to move it around, all the shortcuts are different. Like, okay, so I'll look in the toolbox. It took me a while, because there's two tools that look the same. One is the spacebar for moving the whole page, the other is just a selection, so finally got it. When you do free transform, the box you get looks a bit different, behaves a bit different, so I couldn't get it to rotate. When I finally managed to move the foot, then everything just seems to freeze up and I can't do anything afterwards, because you then need to anchor the layer down. The selection needs to be anchored, like there's a little anchor symbol that you need to take into account. So there's all this stuff that I constantly end up Googling that was just, I mean, it's fun, but it was infuriating, you know? So I've been spending some time on that because I kind of wanted to get out of, away from my comic book for a little bit while I was on holiday, enjoying the holiday vibe. And I wanted to do a little pixel art and work on my Double Dragon background. So, and I did that and I got almost nothing done. It was so frustrating because of the program, and it's just, you know, I'm just not used to it. So here we go. That's a Spider-Man. It's about 22 minutes of me waffling. He's almost there, might as well finish him up right now. Again, a light source down here. I think we got this. Something like that, and I'd like to add the building and a bit of webbing, but we'll leave it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed listening along while I make this little drawing. I guess I now have to decide if this is going to be part of Sketchalona or Sketchanilla, as my girlfriend keeps referring it to, or a standalone Spider-Man drawing video. Sketch, Doodle, Draw. Maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll just feature it in both. Like a time lapse in one and the long form in the other. So thanks so much for checking out this video. I just had a little listen to see what the quality was like, since this is my new setup. And I'm sorry to say I left the air conditioning on, so that's something to worry about, and the fan, so that's something to worry about. There's odd computery noises that you might hear in the background, which are actually from the parking lot. So nothing much I can do about that. The dog has been pretty quiet. I'll introduce him possibly in the vlog. Sketchalona or Sketchanilla? I'll have to think about it. It's probably gonna be Sketchalona. I don't wanna break the flow of 3 years of videos and set up a new series, or do I? Decisions. So again, thanks for checking out my channel. Hit like, hit subscribe if you wanna stay up to date with the next videos that are coming out sometime soon. And leave a comment down below so I can follow you to your channel and see what you've been up to. So thanks for watching again, and take care. See you in the next one.